Alright, hello everyone. My name is Disc, and in this video we're looking at a Tazavesh Gambit 19. We are still bolstering and explosive and tyrannical for this week. This dungeon is pretty fun with tyrannical bosses. It really demands that you have your cooldowns laid out ahead of time and you know exactly how you're going to use them. And for explosives, again, I'll say it isn't a fix that's for everyone, but as a healer, I think you should take it on as your responsibility to do easily more than half. You can use mouse over macros to help with that. Shadow or Death is a great spell for explosives, so is Purge the Wicked. But looking at this group comp, it is kind of off meta, as some would say. But I quickly scanned the item levels in my group, seeing that our Mage has the most gear, and based on spec statistics, our Fire Mage is going to do the most single target. So I'm kind of planning out that's where my PI is going to go. And if you look out into the field with all the Murlocs, you see one that has a nameplate that is glowing. I've done this for all my dungeons for every pull. I have a Weakar loaded with his NPC ID because he has the most health of the group. And it's really important to see where your strongest enemies are in a group because that's who you want to attack first for your spectrometer. And that's also where you want to put your schism. So not everyone plays schism, but I do. And this is one of the easiest ways to maximize it. So especially in these type polls where there are a lot of nameplates on the screen, I need to be able to see where my healthiest enemy is, my strongest enemy, so I can quickly target him and attack. For example, there are a lot of lesser Murlocs in these packs. If I put my Schism on one of those, it's likely going to die before my Schism runs out, so we're going to be losing efficiency a little bit. So you do want to Schism the biggest enemy of a pack, and we're about to get going here. So I did a Gambit 19 right before this that was a lot better, and I kind of thought, damn, I wish I had that recording. So I'm going to try and record just all my keys from now on, so I'm not like pigeonholed into not having a video. But this is the second one in a row, different group, but it still went pretty well. So I thought I would add one of these to my week and add one of these to my channel, just so that anyone who's watching can see how I do it as a Disc Priest. And it's pretty fun. So I am going to talk about a way that I use Boon a little bit differently here. Going into these first few polls, I kind of prioritize my rotation a little bit differently, and we're going to talk about that when we get there. But Fate is always your friend.
3, 2,
here we go. Select Haste as my bounty. And you always want to atone the take pre-dungeon, so we can keep that atonement on him. See, I targeted my strongest enemy of the group, gave him a dot, and I'm waiting for all the other mobs. PI our Hunter for AoE, and we're in Boon. I cast a Blast Radiance Blast at the top, and the way Boon works, all you have to do is work in a Radiance anywhere inside that cooldown window, and your entire party will be covered with atonements through the eruption. So if you want to be super defensive, put the Radiance at the start of Boon. If you want to maximize on your Schism a little bit more, put the Radiance at the end of Boon. And it looks like I did use paints up there somewhere. You'd have to replay it to see exactly. Alright, scanning my available buffs. Boon is back, Fiend is back, we still have Barrier, Rapture. We got all of it. Toning the group. Select the strongest mob. Plant my spectrometer. Alright, and that's not the best example. We will talk about it in other polls. I wanted to highlight how I use Boon a little bit differently here. If you play that back, I did favor Nova. Not heavily, but I did favor Nova. Because we did not need the healing. And if I favored Novas over Blast, we build higher stacks. So it's easy to not hit 99 stacks. You kind of have to think about it sometimes if you want to hit that 99 for the maximum eruption. Alright, so let's see what happens here. Targeting the strongest threat. PI the Hunter, Schism, and Boon. Yeah, and I go straight into Nova. So we had a lot of lesser mobs in this group that were going to die prematurely. And I wanted to get the stacks off of them before they died. So in a case like that, I lead with Nova, 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 Nova. And then only work in the blasts once the small ones are dead. Builds higher stacks, more DPS. Whoops. I have a macro for that, my fade mount back macro. Fade mount macro. Oh my god. And then I'm not too sure here about what's going on. I didn't want to get in the water. I'm not too sure if there's a big enough gap there. I've never tested my luck. Usually I would fade here, but I didn't plan it out right. But anyway, here we go. Fade, mount. I get past these Murlocs. Open with a mouse over macro on my orbs. Getting some dots out. Alright, so scanning my buffs. This pull is just about over. We have Fiend. We have Boon. We have Schism. I don't think I've used Fiend yet, which is a problem. So I target one of my stronger enemies here. Schism Boon. And I'm heavily favoring Nova there. Trying to build as many stacks as I can before the lesser mobs die. Work in a Radiance for coverage. Paints up the tank. Focus on orbs and getting dots out. A good way to look at Paints Up is it's 8 seconds to do something else. So I don't have any dots out here. We had a lot of orbs. Paints Up. And I really love Tyrannical weeks because you can get a lot of Mind Seer in. Let's say you have 10 dots out and a Schism Mind Seer. That's a significant amount of healing for a tank. And you can kind of just put direct healing on the back burner. Alright, so here's Boon again. And this pull is really dragging just because of the mechanics. So Schism Boon. And for this, I am going to do Nova Nova Blast. It's a small group. There's no need to favor a different pattern. Always keeping dots refreshed. Only actually keeping dots refreshed if you think you're going to get a significant amount of their value. So I would say if you think you can get 10 plus seconds on a dot, it's worth casting. I did hit 2k IO finally, so I was able to upgrade some of my gear. I am going to try and spend more time focusing on upgrading gear at the moment. Since I'm not raiding, I really need to prioritize doing the right kind of keys. There's a lot of easy upgrades I can get, and I have plenty of Valor already. Okay, I forgot our play here. But so, analyzing myself, Shadow Fiend has still not been used, which is bad. There's been at least time for one, so I'm losing DPS is the way I see it. PI on the Hunter. I reacted a little too quickly, should have PI'd the Mage. Actually, I think it went to the Hunter because of the timing. Oh yeah, that's right. This whole pull for me, these two pulls were terrible. I booned the single target, lost at least half of the value on boon, when I should have used boon here and maybe the Shadow Fiend on the giant. So, lost a lot of CDR. Not the best boon ever. But here's our Shadow Fiend and a Schism. While everyone's atoned, I'm just getting my offensive spells rolling. You definitely want to keep dispels on your tank here. I was cutting it a little bit close with everything there. But if you're trying to maximize your dispel, you want to cast it right after his dot is refreshed. So that gives you most time without a stack. And I would say you probably want to dispel around 4. I think 5 is too much. And that Blood Siphon doesn't really do too much. Usually I think a Radiance is all you need. And wow, while I was playing with that guy out in the water, Shadow Priest came in with a really pro Mass Dispel for the tank stacks. Radiant Schism. And when it comes to refreshing your dot, you only ever really want to do that if every other spell of yours is rolling its cooldown. So like right now, my Death, Solace, Penance, and Mind Blast were all on cooldown, so it's in a window like that where you want to refresh a dot. Dispelled right after the 5th stack. And whoop, going into boss. I forget this next play. I think I'm confusing it with the key beforehand. But I toss one friendly feather up there. So the way this works is a max feather, max distance feather, is 5 seconds. So you run out of your first feather, you grab your second. In this little gauntlet, you do want to invis pot as late as possible to make sure you get through. But yeah, I always like to set a feather out for me at max distance. Okay, we're getting this guy. So I roll Schism as early as I can to get the cooldown rolling, and a grip the priest there just to show him how it's done. But a sequence I lean into a lot lately is Schism followed by Death. Those are both long cooldowns. Want to get them rolling as quickly as possible. And my Schism is roll forward, my Death is roll backwards, so as a sequence that's kind of how it looks. Okay, PI on our Combustion Mage, and I want to dump all my cooldowns with this Ruby and Lust. So Fiend, Schism, Boon, and this is our preferred rotation, so Nova Blast, Nova Blast, Nova Blast. And I could have delayed a little bit and maximized the blast with those purifiers. But I didn't. trying to unload every spell into the boss before he phases. You always want to orient facing the podium. Top right. And then opening up here, I unload straight into a schism as soon as we phase. Schism. Roll my offensive spells. And that was 9 full seconds of DPS, which is what you want. So anticipating that attack, there is no targeting mechanic, it's randomized. So I try and put an atonement / shield on at least 3 party members, always being myself as one. So a shield will lessen that sting. The lenience from the atonement will lessen that sting. So yeah, I always want to protect myself there. And spreading your dot off of one of the adds is a great way to refresh the dot of the tank. Trying to maximize that schism there. And he's just about dead, but I'm gonna roll, I believe, a Schism Death just to finish him off. Schism Death. Penance. So there is first boss, and we're moving on. So I'm scanning my buffs to kind of plan out how the next pull is gonna go. And we have Boon and PI and Pain Sup and Barrier. And I think we use all of them. So, just to use my toolkit, I throw out some Mind Soothes up here. Mind Soothes. Keeping an atonement on my tank before combat engages. Lead with a Fade. And then open with all my dots. Paints up. PI the Mage. Getting the rest of my dots out. Schism, Boon. The only thing you gotta do here is watch out for the Shrouded frontal. And that was a Nova Nova Blast pattern. Thankfully, I saw our tank pop meta. It was perfect timing for those enraged guys. But I didn't have much to give him instantly, except a punt. So the way I look at punts is it buys 3 to 4 seconds to react, and that's what we did there. So yep, grip the priest again just to show him how it's done. Gripped him out of the way of that frontal. And I always like to levitate in for style. Broke my fall with a cancel aura and then recast levitate. You're welcome. And I think this, let's see what happens here. Opening with all my dots. I drop a barrier as a buffer just to help me get the rest of my dots out. And I'm prepping for Boon. So I refresh my atonement on the tank. Schism and Boon. Nova Nova Blast. Tank was slept. Oh. Refreshing my dots while they're scattered. And we just had no more buttons. Looking at my cooldowns available, I did have Fiend, but that's not the type spell that would have saved the pull. I mean, I did have Rapture, and I don't think that would have saved the pull either. I just don't think that was a good pull. A handful of them enraged, and that was a problem. Our tank did not have a button for, another handful of seconds. So he's saying maybe Hunter should have oil trapped. Something should have happened because I mean, yeah, it was a wipe, so I didn't even have a punt available. We just kind of got outplayed. But we pick it up. Always use penance to spread a dot. PI the hunter, we have time to make up for. And I go into boon. I don't want to hold this any longer. It's never good to hold it. And Nova Blast for 10 seconds. Banking on as much cooldown reduction as possible. Those guys were coming at me, so I faded really quick. Open with dots. Shadow Fiend. Schism. Mindseer. And as a strategy, I always throw in a penance right at the tail end of Schism. I am spec'd into my first bolt of penance being stronger, so I want to at least spread the dot, and I want that first bolt of penance to hit with the Schism, and that's just one way to maximize DPS. And if you notice back there, I punted. Arguably a questionable move, but I quickly threw a Mind Soothe on the boss to just keep that from happening. But here we are, Schism and Mindseer. That's about the most DPS you can do outside of Boon. Also, the less people you have atoned, the more damage you do. So, yep, trying to bank on that talent tree. And here we go. We have oh my god, Timecap'n Hooktail. There we go. So I really like this boss. You really just gotta pump as hard as you can. So anyway, here comes PI. We also have Ruby and Boon coming up. And I put PI on the mage as soon as it was ready. And if the mage wanted to maximize a little bit more, he would have been watching my PI timer because he got ahead of me by like 5 seconds. We lost some efficiency there. But now I'm swooping in for Boon. Schism Boon. And this is just a straight Nova Blast pattern for 10 seconds. Always want to refresh the atonement on the tank. Very last thing before Boon. And in that window with all my offensive spells on cooldown is when I refresh my dot. And our positioning is a little off standard, but we're not in deep water just yet. But I'm already thinking ahead of how do I get back over there to where that mage is. You kind of want to stay on the top side of the arena. Keeping Schism on cooldown, keeping all my spells on cooldown. Perfectly timed that proc for death with Schism. And so whenever it targets me, you don't really have to wall, but I don't need wall anywhere else. So I preemptively shield myself and wall, and it really lessens that sting. I got 2 in a row, which is crazy right there. Alright, and if I were the other priest, I would have already gripped me by now. So I type in chat grip, and then watch what happens. That was actually really cute. I've never seen that happen before, but I don't know. I judge a priest's proness based on how they grip. And blows my mind they have to remind this guy to grip. Like, I'm chained getting pulled away there. Help me out. Grip. So we have all spells, but this is a small pull. This is where I get a little pushy. So I drop PI on our mage, and I go ahead and pull in this group. Because we have all cooldowns rolling, PIs rolling, and I have Boon and Barrier. So Schism Boon, atone the tank last. and Nova Blast for 10 seconds. Maximum damage, maximum CDR. Get my dots out immediately out of Boon. And you want to remove that tank dot around 5 stacks, 4 to 5 stacks. I'm just doing a little bit of mines here. Yeah, I thought they were all stacked, but there was a small divide there, but tried to punt just to buy a few seconds for my tank to escape. Open with Fade. Looking at my buffs, we also have Boon. So we're not going to do a 3-pack. These are non-fortified. So dot all of the guys. I toned the group because we're going to have this Pulsar, Schism, and Boon. And this is Nova Blast. I work in a Blast Radiance Blast late after Schism fades. And it covers everyone through the eruption. So last boss, Tyrannical, the bomb mechanic really needs to be handled by someone else. Mage says he got it. Another thing, it goes for all my dungeons. I go through my bigwigs and eliminate all warnings that aren't super relevant to things like that you have to dodge, like that star. So the way I look at it is if everything is beeping at you, the functionality of it being a warning is lost. I feel like if everything is beeping at you, you eventually naturally start to tone it out. So anyway, I eliminate everything except a few key spells to my liking, like that Wandering Star. Alright, here we are. Last boss. Boon is going to be our first spell. I'm watching for the mage to cue his combustion. With the mage, you can PI them early because their window is shorter than PI. So I PI'd him a little bit early. He got 100% value there. And here we have our first star. The opening couple seconds of healing you want just to be atonements and regular atonement healing. So I blast Radiance Blast early just to be defensive. But one thing that's really important to notice is I delayed my boon until after the second bomb was popped. So essentially that whole bomb mechanic is going to take more than 10 seconds. So you want to cast your boon late, like, you know, delayed by maybe 5 seconds, just to make sure it covers the full mechanic. Same with Shadow Fiend. You want to cast those things late to make sure it covers everything. And as soon as the arrows come out, I go into a Rapture. And then that lets me refresh at least 2 shields on the backside of that mechanic. And I went to the tank first. So also for bigwigs, the only timers I show are the collapsing star. That's pretty much the only thing that I need to worry about in this fight. Everything else I take as a natural cadence. So here we have our star, and this is a fiend round. So I open with atonements and regular atonement healing, getting all of those spells rolling, dropping my procs, some natural straight green healing, Shadow Fiend, Schism, late. So see how the mechanic is over, and Shadow Fiend has its full duration. All you have to do at that point is just farm your atonements, keep them active on players that are missing health, and your Shadow Fiend healing will go into them. So I don't have Rapture here, but you can shield a couple people. I could have gotten the Mage, but I missed him. So we have Boon. And not too much damage goes out in this interim. You just have to dodge those big yellow circles. The only thing that really hurts are the collapsing stars. So here we go, collapsing star. We have Boon. But I can tell we're already going to just let it rot and focus boss. So I Schism and Boon. Nova Nova Blast. I blast Death Blast just to get the death on the Schism. And that was a really good, not perfect, but it was a really good Gambit. So I've come to really love this key, and I wish I had the one previous to this recorded because it was so good. But I think this was good too, and I think there were a lot of good examples. So I'm analyzing the meters down in the corner. I did not even appear on the avoidable damage, so that is exactly what you want. I'm at the top of the orbs list, which is also what you want. Everyone was helping, which is really great. And looking at my DPS, I did a stellar 6.7, which those are numbers you don't see really everywhere. So this was a really fun key. Boon is super handy. And I'm starting to get gear, which is great, and I'm having fun playing. And I will start venturing into the newer dungeons. They're new for me. I know they're old for others, but I've not fully learned them yet, and I've not fully set up my UI for them yet. So I will be doing that, but Gambit is one I'm really familiar with, and I noticed I did not have a video yet. So here you go. And yeah, I hope you guys are enjoying my videos, and I hope you're learning things from my videos. I try and go into a lot of detail about how I play versus how the dungeon is laid out. And I think it's a perspective that can help just about anyone. So I know I don't cover everything behind my philosophies and my methods. So if anyone ever wants to know more about a specific detail, please let's have an open discussion about this, and I can address it further in my next videos. But yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in, and until next time, Disc out.